It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. All right, are you ready for this one? A Fox News poll on taxes with tax day just around the corner.
Okay.
Most Americans think they pay too much in taxes and that the rich don't pay enough. With tax day approaching, the latest Fox News survey finds 59% of voters think the taxes they pay are too high, down from a record 64% last year. Some 38% think that what they pay is about right. Just a smidge say the taxes they pay are too low.
I want to talk to the smidge.
Yes. Who are the smidge? Voters traditionally think their taxes are too expensive, and the lowest recorded in a Fox News survey was 51% in April of 2004. When the question was first asked, 44% felt their taxes were about right at that time, which was a record. Partisans across the board think their taxes are too high. Republicans, 65% too high. Independents, 61%. Democrats, 51%. The drop in those thinking they pay too much mostly comes from Republicans, down 11 points, and independents, down 11. Meanwhile, an increasing number of voters think that the rich are not paying enough. When asked about what bothers them most about paying federal income taxes, 45% say the affluent are not paying their fair share, up from 34% in 2019 and 28% in 2014. Is that why the Republican House is thinking of raising taxes?
Yeah, because I would think, if you jump from, 34 to 44, then you got to factor in more independents thinking that, right? An increased number of independents. Because if you say 34% believe the rich aren't paying their fair share, you could say, all right, mostly Democrat. But the thing about the independents is they vote, they're fickle. They go back and forth. And they can be very populist. So maybe.
Latest data we have, wait a minute, make sure I got the full chart here. Okay, here we go. Every poll I've ever seen, when people are asked how much they think people pay in taxes, especially people that are well off, they always lowball it. They always think the rich pay less than actually they do. But the top 1% of taxpayers, the latest numbers from 2022, the top 1% of 1% of taxpayers pay 40% of the total income tax. The top 5%, the top 10% of taxpayers provide 72% of income taxes.
Okay.
All right, let's actually get to the whole thing, though. The top 1% of taxpayers pay 40% of the total income tax. Their tax burden is almost double their share of the national income, which is 22%. They pay 40%. The top 10% of taxpayers pay 72% of income taxes, while they earn 49% of the national income. The bottom 50% of taxpayers, nearly 77 million taxpayers with income less than $50,339, together paid only 3% of the income taxes collected by the IRS. The report notes that they actually pay even less than this percentage because refundable tax credits are treated as spending rather than lost tax collections. The bottom 50% had an average tax rate of 3.7%. The average tax rate on the top 1%, 26.1.
Wow. The average. Yeah.
The question I would ask, this is one of the questions, there's a few of them we've asked on the air over the years, but being in the media, being in radio now for 42 years, Talk Radio 36, even though before that I worked at a station where I was station manager, and so we had actually asked this question on the air. I was not doing a talk show, more of a full-service show, but we asked this, never have received an answer, ever. What's fair? What's the fair share? Nobody's ever answered that question.
Well, because
ever.
The real answer is everyone's screaming that can't answer, because the real answer, fair, has to be decided between two parties or all parties that are involved. Well, when you're not involved and the government decides what's fair, the government not being involved in, that whole thing, you can say fair pay. Well, who decides fair pay? Democrats.
Right, but the people that say the rich need to pay their fair share, what do they think the fair share
That's what I was saying. They can never define it.
Right.
When they say fair share, they can't define it. Well, fair is defined by the parties that are actually involved. And as a society, we can come up with it because there's going to be taxation, right? Some will say 90% on the far left.
Oh, yeah.
So we have to decide as a group what's fair to take from other people. Well, fair would be even. A dime from every dollar from everybody. Everybody. Well, that's not fair. They earn fewer dollars. A dime from every dollar.
Well, I think, you and I have talked about, both tariffs, about tariffs and taxes in general. And the discussion on tariffs has been huge the last few weeks. But, we look at tariffs and say the importer takes them, but it's a hidden tax on the consumer because it's not listed anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Now companies may start saying the tariff cost is this on your bill. People may figure that out and do that.
Right.
But it's normally not figured out. One of the things we've talked about is the United States believes that countries that have a value-added tax are somehow breaking the rules and trying to do unfair trade with the United States.
Mm-hmm.
But those countries don't have the value-added tax to get a heads up on trade with the United States. They have it in order to have a stealth tax to tax their own people.
On their own people, yeah.
And it's a stealth tax. It doesn't appear. It's not like it doesn't appear on your bill where sales tax would. Here's your sales tax amount. You spend $100. Sales tax is 8.2%. You owe $8.20. You see that on every receipt, so you know what the taxes are. With a value-added tax, that's put on each level of production. So it's a stealth tax. And as we have stated before, with the corporate tax, for example, the biggest lie that I've ever seen that has been successful over the last 40 to 50 years I've been paying attention to what's going on is the Democrats promoting the corporate tax. Because the corporate tax is the worst for the consumer because it's a stealth tax and it hurts the poor the most.
Right.
And they don't even see it. They don't know they're being taxed. It's not listed, which is why Democrats love corporate taxes and Democrats and liberals love value-added taxes because it's a stealth tax and you can get money out of the middle class and the poor without them screaming because they don't actually see the accounting of it.
Right. Yeah.
But then again, with Republicans and the administration, which they've now moved off it, where, remember, just 2 months ago it was, no, the American consumer will pay none of the tariffs. Now, we know they were lying to you when they said that. Mm-hmm. And when I saw Lutnick yesterday saying, well, no, I mean, eventually the exporters will pay at least half of the taxes.
Right.
Like, well, technically they would if the exporter is the same company as the importer, just different divisions. But if the tax is put on, the tax would not be on the exporter. It would be on their American division, which would be the importer.
Right. And ultimately that has to be passed along to the consumer.
Right. And for me, tariffs in general, whether they're reciprocal or not, the economic effect of them, I could say in many cases the reciprocal tariff is needed on that particular country. Mm-hmm. But the result of that is of a tariff is the government is picking who they wish to be the winners, which industry they want to be the winners. We're giving you the steel industry. You can raise your prices, you can produce less, but still make more of a profit. And the increase in costs that you have, because we saw it in steel tariffs.
Yeah.
Steel tariffs, American steel companies raised it.
Yeah.
And what the administration's telling you now, Lutnick and Bessert out there yesterday saying, no. This is no problem whatsoever. You simply buy an American car and it's not going to cost you any more.
Right.
Well, 2 points are wrong because history proves that wrong. When you raise the cost of the competition, well, then the American company can raise it up to just below it and still beat them on the price, but you're still paying more.
Right.
And so everybody that buys from you will see an increase in price. Every company, American company that buys from you will see an increase in that cost of goods and services. Mm-hmm. Now, you may say, well, we have to do that in order to straighten out the economy. Well, then say that. Don't lie to the American people.
Right.
And that's been our biggest thing with the administration, the Trump administration, is the dishonesty that you see, and that's why they've been jumping all over the place. Because remember, they made it clear yesterday now, it is not a negotiation, and it's not just about tariffs. And the base tariffs goes on everyone, whether you have a tariff on us or not. And it gets to where we always believed Navarro wanted to go, which was America should be the only country that put tariffs on, and you have to deal with it. Mm-hmm. That's what somebody like Navarro believes, mm-hmm. which is why, and he would want them to be permanent from the United States side only.
Right.
And so I don't believe he's somebody who's looking for fair trade. He just believes the United States is big and should take advantage of it, but you're not taking advantage of it by even having a tariff on yourself.
Well, and he talks as if this should be the overcorrection for all of the years where there was the trade imbalance and everything else. In other words, we need to make up for lost time here. But you're not going to do that without crushing the economy.
Yeah.
In other words, you're overcorrecting.
But if you believe, because I do believe that Trump believes this is going to work.
Yeah.
I believe Trump's not trying to hurt the country. He believes this works.
Mm-hmm.
They believe this.
Mm-hmm.
But if you believe it, then don't lie. Don't have 5 different reasons and then keep switching up what the reasons are that you're doing this. Be honest with the American public.
Yep.
Conservatives and Republicans don't have to lie. Don't lie.
And now the game is on. Now it's your game.
Now it's your game. Well, you won't. That's why the Democrats forced the vote in the Senate. Because if the economy goes down the tubes, there is no one else to blame but Trump and the Republicans.
You own it.
And they've got them on their vote.
Right.
Which is why Republicans will probably never even have a vote on this. They'll never bring it up to a vote.
Yeah.
They don't want it.
Right.
They
do not.
And there is, believe me, there's a ton of people that went along with this in the Senate that don't agree with what's going on and hoping that it gets reversed.
Right. And I don't think the Wall Street Journal, in fact, wrote about that yesterday morning. They said a handful. I think they said 8 or 9, but I think there's more in the GOP, in the Senate, that don't agree with this. But the longer this goes on, because I don't believe they're going to reverse the tariffs over the next few months. I don't think they're going to budge on this.
I didn't expect that the tariffs would be so punitive. That I didn't expect.
Right.
So I tend to agree with you because yesterday I said, well, I just think Trump will back off on it.
No,
Maybe he
this
won't
is
now.
gauntlet territory. Yeah. This was a true throwdown. And I don't see Trump reversing that. Maybe not even this year. Maybe not at all. But you can't go on and have, let's say we have 1,000-point down on the Dow. Well, you can only do that, 40 times on the Dow? So, yeah, the market is also still uncertain. Because the question now is, will he reverse any of these? And if he does, when? That's the uncertainty.
Dow almost down 1,100. S&P down 172, over 3%. Both the NASDAQ and S&P now down 3%.
Right. And the answer is, it's not going to zero because Trump will let it go to zero. But I do not get the feeling that he's going to reverse this anytime soon. But again, the asterisk there is if the Dow keeps crashing, you're going to have to do something. He's going to have to respond.
866-90 Red Eye.
This morning's USDA Farm Report is brought to you by House Products. Tested, trusted, guaranteed since 1920.
April is National Invasive Pest and Plant Disease Awareness Month, an appropriate time for this educational campaign, according to Catherine Bronsky of the Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service, in that
April is a great time to get out and look for hungry pests. Trees are starting to leaf out, and it may be easier to see things in your backyard, your garden, as you're walking around in your community. As certain areas, these pests have not yet emerged. So if you're able to see them as their egg mass, you can easily find them, scrape them off and smash them before they hatch, remove them from things that may be in your backyard, and be able to prevent them from hatching.
More information about Invasive Pest and Plant Disease Awareness Month, various threats, and ways to prevent them are available online at www.aphis.usda.gov. Click on the Plants tab on the home page, then the link to Leave Hungry Pests Behind. I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
This report brought to you by Cenex Fuels and Lubes.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio, and he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. How will the world respond? We already have some indications. For example, National Review talking about the fact that there's already a deal done that between China, South Korea, and Japan to unite together, to retaliate together. German economy minister saying Trump will buckle if the United States bands together over, if Europe bands together over the tariffs. And that's probably what you're going to see. And we had talked about it because people asked us, what would you do? And I said, I'd get all of our friendly trading partners and go after who the problem is. And the problem has been China. And you look at Vietnam and the tariffs and things that they put on. You look for the countries that are really the problem countries, and you form a trade bloc against them. Well, it seems like that's exactly what you have a significant portion of the world that is considering doing now.
Including China.
Right. We may have the biggest economy.
Right.
But it's not bigger than the world.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Friday Radio. He's our Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Already getting some feedback saying, don't you guys understand it's a negotiating tactic? They made it clear yesterday that no negotiation. This is not a negotiation.
Right.
It's not a bargaining chip. That now they may change their mind tomorrow. We're just telling you what they say. That's part of the problem is the inconsistent messaging.
Well, now we'll hear, saying it's not a negotiation is also part of the negotiation.
Right. It's everybody. It's like
nobody really knows where this is going to go.
No, we don't.
I don't believe Trump is going to let the Dow go down to, first of all, it's not going to go to zero. But I made the joke about, if it goes down 1,000 points, you can only afford that for roughly 41 days. But if it goes into correction territory, because the conversation will be all about this today, based on the Dow or the markets. It will also be based on the response by trade partners all around the world that we just mentioned. And so the media will be talking to Trump on this, and he'll talk. He doesn't have a problem answering questions. He'll go on about it. And that will affect the market. Whatever he says today is going to affect the market even more, one way or the other. So I don't believe he'll let, again, the Dow go into deep correction territory without some kind of response. But yesterday, given just the demeanor based on what they presented yesterday, I come away with, nope, this is a full gauntlet laid down for the entire world. This really feels more permanent.
And as we've said, and a lot of people may not know it, it's not just base because these countries have unfair tariffs against the United States. And as we always stated, then you should have gone one by one and say, if Spain has a 10% tariff on us, we're putting 10% tariff on them. Whatever they do to us, we're going to do. But they put on an overall, across the board, 10% tariff on everyone. And it doesn't matter whether you have no tariffs, as Israel has done, you're still going to be charged, by the United States. So it's not just reciprocal. They weren't being honest about it. There's punitive ones to punish countries. And as you said, did Lutnick say it or Navarro say it about that? Well, the punitive things is to go after what we've lost.
Navarro, I think Navarro
said that?
I think.
Okay, yeah, I didn't hear it. You had said that earlier. I didn't.
Yeah. Well, no. The overall attitude was this has gone on for too long. Navarro has been talking as if they're making up for all this lost time, that Trump was talking about. Basically, they've been doing this for way too long, getting away with this for way too long. And if the approach is what I was saying, if the approach is this massive overcorrection, then expect these to be permanent, or at least for the next few years. The list that they put up yesterday, the chart, and CNBC posted it, of starting with China. It's a minimum. The lowest number on the chart is 10%. Like the UK is 10%. Brazil, 10. Singapore, 10. But most are higher. And so if you look at this, the world is going to respond today. Well, they already are. They've already, we've already heard from leaders across the world. They're going to respond to this. And then that's going to have an effect on the market. But this sounds a lot more permanent than what the administration has been talking about in the last month. Because at times it did sound like it was a negotiation.
So you've had, as National Review pointed out, you've got now China, South Korea, and Japan have agreed to a deal to reciprocate against the United States together. And then this story out, U.S. President Donald Trump will, quote, buckle under pressure, underquote, or underquote, end of quote, and alter his tariff policies if Europe bands together, acting German economy minister Robert Habeck said. This is what I see, that Donald Trump will buckle under pressure, that he corrects his announcements under pressure, but the logical consequence is that then he also needs to feel the pressure, he said during the press conference, and this pressure now needs to be unfolded from Germany, from Europe, and the alliance with other countries, and then we will see who was the stronger one in this arm wrestle. So what they're doing is, and we said this before, and I said it just in the last half hour, because people have asked me, well, what would you do? I said, well, simply I would, what we said in 2017, 2018, whenever the issue of tariffs comes up, you get together with your good trading partners who you've got deals with that you've done and agreed to, and you all band together. And if you wish to make your free trade agreements stronger, you do that. But you target who your actual adversaries are, and you go after them, and you go after the people that are really, really cheating, stealing intellectual property, have incredibly high tariffs, and you reciprocate as a union against them. And it looks like that might be happening in the reverse. At least that's the idea out there. Europe completely unite, Asia unite, the strong Asian countries unite against United States. And the point they're trying to make is back to the United States is, you have the biggest economy, but your economy is not as big as all of ours if we band together.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so if that message is out this morning, you can expect Trump, as you said earlier, to comment on it, and then you wonder, where does the stock market go from that point? Because that's what happens normally in these trade wars, is you keep upping the ante and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And remember, none of these tariffs start till April 5th.
Right, right.
So,
except for the car tariffs.
The car tariffs, yeah.
That started last night.
Yeah.
Yeah, for 5 hours.
And the car tariffs, by the way, affect auto parts.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't matter. Because I think it was Lutnick was out there yesterday saying, or I believe it was Lutnick saying that, well, it's easy. Just buy an American car and you won't have to pay any more. Mm-hmm. Well, that's not true, and we all know it's not true. American car manufacturers will raise the price up, but even if they didn't, American cars will still cost more because the parts come from all over the world.
And the parts are tariffed.
The parts are tariffed.
So, and here's the thing, too.
If it's assembled here, the parts are made in probably 40 different countries, and all those parts coming into the country to be assembled in the United States will be tariffed.
Here's what you could watch for in the media. If there seem to be new deals coming together to reestablish new trade routes or to establish new trade routes between other partners, bypassing the U.S. We saw that with tariffs back in his first term. The farmers heard, and it's like, well, hold on. You're going to see that in any tariff war. But if it looks organized and on a grand scale and consistent where it's happening, news is hitting where South Korea, China, and everybody, they're all getting together, they're having meetings. Once if you reroute those trade routes, now you got to talk about getting back in the game after that. We talked about that with farmers.
Yeah, that's what the farmers are worried about. They said it took us decades to get these trade routes.
Right. And when the government money came their way, they said, that's great, but we want to get back in the game.
Right.
We need to have everything settled here. And I don't, that's going to really determine where the markets go. If it looks like there's going to be a bypass by other trade partners, if they truly are working together, and you would have to think that they are, because it sounds like they also believe this is more long-term. Now, in Germany, they're saying Trump will cave. He'll buckle. under pressure.
They said the German economic head said they'll buckle if we band together.
If we band, yeah. Well, that's that's what you watch. If it truly looks like they're working new deals and doing a workaround around the U.S., that will drive the markets in a heavy way. That will tell them that the world believes it's going to be semi-permanent. It's going to be at least a year long, if not longer, and they need to make new arrangements. That's going to affect the economy because reestablishing those routes, if there is if they rescind these tariffs, then that's going to be difficult. That's going to be a problem. So now you're getting into 2 years down the road, maybe 3. Nothing from the OEMs on opening new plants, bringing production or assembly, back to the U.S. on these things. Nothing in a big way. You've heard NVIDIA. You've heard Hyundai on the steel plant. You've heard one of the chip makers or two. But you're going to have to hear from the big brand names that everybody knows to send a message to the market. Yeah, we believe this is going to have this impact on manufacturing. And then on manufacturing, you're going to have the humans to populate those lines.
Mm-hmm.
It's great. Let's create jobs, no doubt. But you got to have the workers, too.
And Trump even said that. We need to have legal immigration. America isn't ready for legal immigration by every poll. They don't want it.
Right.
We do.
Well, you're still
we agree with Trump on that. We have for the longest time.
You certainly can't do it while doing your victory lap on the lowest level of border crossing encounters, ever. You can't do the same. You can't do it while that's happening because the sentiment just isn't there yet. It's too soon. So if you're talking about work visas, good luck. You're going to have to let everything else settle from the broken border and fixing the broken border at least for a minute.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Anything else going on?
No.
No. Well, this is good.
What?
Because Trump supporters have been looking for this. Trump administration freezes funding to Maine for letting trans athletes in girls' sports.
All right.
It's about time. Oh, did you hear they had they were trying to get the Republicans trying to get the legislation in California to for the radical transgender movement.
Right. Yeah.
And Newsom said yesterday, "Oh, well, you didn't say anything. You didn't support it. I'm busy on other things."
Yeah. He's so weak right now.
He really is.
Seriously. He can't
really
win. He can't win with his own party.
That podcast might have been the final nail in his political coffin for national office.
I thought the botched handling by his administration of the LA fires was the end of it. But he had to come in and nail it shut with the podcast. It was horrible. What are you thinking? Oh, I'll have Steve Bannon on.
Well, no, you said a long time ago. They live in California.
Yeah.
They live in their own bubble.
Right.
And they don't
in
even...
a world where they think Steve Bannon will be okay on a podcast. And you not pay a price. My gosh.
With the left.
He lives in you know what? He lives in a Gavin Newsom bubble. It's just him and nobody else. And every time he tries to step out of it, it's horrible. I was busy doing the mom during the LA fires thing. The mom that approached him, what are you doing? Well, sorry, I was just trying to call the White House. She said, show me your phone. Show me that you were trying to call the White House. He's so weak.
I love that.
Wow. Just horrible, man. Just horrible. I don't know how you get to keep your job. Oh, it's California.
Yeah.
Insane.
Yes, but when I saw that the Trump administration freezes the funding
in Maine
to Maine, I'm like, okay, because, Republicans are getting antsy. They're like, we want something done. We want something done. That's why you and I are looking forward to what the Senate eventually, what the final bill is that they try to pass, and there where Republicans go, because I'm telling you right now, the Freedom Caucus is not going to approve where the Senate is right now on cutting.
Nope.
They're not.
Nope.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.